Over the years, I've read hundreds of leadership books in the broad category of wisdom literature, many of which would nest under the study of leadership. I do have some favorites. While many authors have influenced my perspective, in the spirit of the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, several books have appeared to me when they were uniquely helpful to my development. Let me share a few of them with you now. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I discovered this book in my early 40s, right after it was published. I was hungering for new ways of thinking about my personal development and my professional development, and I discovered the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I was fascinated by the 7 Habits model, by the maturity continuum that is contained in that model, by the concept of going from dependence to independence to interdependence, and I was particularly moved by the first 3 habits, which gave me a tangible way to start my leadership journey to take it to a higher level. Those 3 habits started with the philosophy of being proactive, habit 1, beginning with the end in mind, habit 2, and putting first things first, habit 3. Those 3 habits helped me jumpstart my development. Over the years, I've had opportunities to spend significant time with Stephen and many people that work with him. I encourage you to give yourself over to the philosophy in this book, work with it. I believe it can meaningfully change the trajectory of your development. True North by Bill George. Bill George is an extraordinary individual. He was CEO and chairman of Medtronic and led that company to extraordinary heights. He's also now a professor at the Harvard Business School. In True North, it gave me a view into how a CEO had grown his leadership profile in a very tangible way. He created his True North model, and what was exciting to me was I had a chance to walk in the shoes of a fellow CEO. Good to Great by Jim Collins. Jim has authored many books. In terms of good to great, he began to look at what it takes to go from being a good company to being a great company. I read this book right as I became CEO of Campbell back in 2001, 2002. What captured my interest was his theory of going from build-up to breakthrough and his 3 key stages in that process. It was all about disciplined people, disciplined thinking, and disciplined action. Inside of that, he had a concept of a hedgehog concept about focusing the organization on what you could be extraordinarily good at. And as you got better at that, you had the potential of going from good to great. That roadmap was extremely helpful to us here at the Campbell Soup Company. Teams at the Top by John Katzenbach. John Katzenbach is one of the foremost experts in the world on developing and advancing teams. In Teams at the Top, he really focuses on how you can take the top teams and unleash the power of the full team and the individuals in a unique and harmonious way. If you read nothing else in this book, I encourage you to read the first 17 pages, all about the spirit of Haida Gwaii. The spirit of Haida Gwaii is captured in a statue, and it's in Washington, D.C. in front of the Canadian Embassy. If you read those 17 pages, and if you ever go to Washington, D.C., I encourage you to go see that statue. Between what you read and what you see, you will understand the nature of what it takes to lead teams at the top. A Force for Change by John Kotter. John is a professor at the Harvard Business School. I've invited him to speak to our global leadership team, and I was captured by a particular book he's written. He's written many books. In A Force for Change, he really helped me see, at the time, the differences between being an effective manager and being an effective leader. In fact, if you go to page 139 in John's book, he captures the essence of the differences between management and leadership. Both are essential, but they have different requirements for success. He gives many rich examples that bring this idea to life. I encourage you to look at it as you try and migrate from being an effective manager to being an even more effective leader. Managing People is Like Herding Cats by Warren Bennis. If there was a Mount Rushmore for thinkers and contributors around the concept of leadership in business, Warren Bennis would be on that Mount Rushmore for the 20th century. He has extraordinary perspective, grounded in a lifetime pursuit of the study of leadership. This particular book arrived in my life at a time when I was managing a very challenging executive team, very talented, very different. And when I saw this title, it spoke to me. It enabled me to honor the individuals and help them thrive and grow and contribute in ways that were personally meaningful to them. But it also enabled me to lead the team effectively as well. Every Business is a Growth Business, written by Ram Charan and Noel Tichy. Ram Charan was my professor in graduate school at Northwestern as I was getting my MBA. I've known Ram, therefore, for 37 years. He is an extraordinarily gifted thinker and leader in the notion of running your business in a powerful way. He helped Jack Welch at GE when Jack was trying to take his organization to new heights, and I have partnered with him over the years to advance my own thinking as well. This book spoke to me in a very powerful way. We all have challenges in our business work, and it's sometimes very difficult to find a path to growth. And what we do is all about growth, because in the business world, you either grow or die. There's no in between. And it's easy to get depressed about the growth opportunities you see. Ram and Noel helped me think about growing from the strengths I already had, as opposed to going to acquire totally new strengths, which would be speculative at best. Their mindset about every business is a growth business is a powerful idea. It brings an abundance mentality to your work that I think is integral and critical to your leadership. I encourage you to embrace the idea that every business is a growth business. The Definitive Drucker by Elizabeth Haas Edersheim. If you are a student of leadership and of business, you need to be a student of Peter Drucker. One way to do it is to read the 39 books that Peter Drucker authored in his lifetime. Another way to do it, and a more efficient way to do it, is to read The Definitive Drucker by Elizabeth Haas Edersheim. She captures in a very full and tangible way the essence of his teachings. I encourage you, if you do nothing else related to the study of Peter Drucker, to read this one book. And trust me, it will lead you to others, but it is a great place to start when you're looking for the leadership philosophy from Peter Drucker. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. This book, I believe, was originally published in 1772. The language may be a little awkward, but there is some powerful philosophy about how to thrive and how to compete in a challenging world. Drive by Daniel Pink. Daniel Pink is a fellow Northwestern graduate, and he is much younger than I am, but he clearly has wisdom beyond his years. This book was published in 2009. I read it and quickly invited him to attend our global leadership meeting in 2010. He was magnificent. In particular, Daniel helped me see beyond the carrot and the stick philosophy that's very pervasive today. He helped me see the three elements of true motivation: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And he gave me practical examples of how to advance those notions in a very tangible way. I encourage you to give yourself over to this work and get at the three elements of true motivation: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. The Road Less Traveled by Scott Peck. I read this book when it was originally published in 1978. I was just married. My wife and I both read the book and found it to be a very powerful experience. You know, when we study leadership in the corporate world, oftentimes the notion of spiritual growth is assiduously avoided. I don't know if it's because it is too complex or too uncomfortable for executives. But I will tell you this: if you want to be an effective executive at a high level, you do need to attend to your spiritual growth. And Scott Peck, in this book in 1978, helped me advance my spiritual growth in a way that has given me a much richer life and a well-rounded perspective on what I'm trying to accomplish in my life. In the book, he talks about 2 keys to effectively advancing towards a state of grace in your life. He talks about the importance of discipline and the importance of love. Those 2 concepts can be enormously important, not just in your spiritual growth, but in your leadership growth as well. To pretend that the 2 are not intertwined is a fool's errand. Take care of your spiritual growth. There you have it, a few of the books that had a powerful influence on me in my career. I strongly encourage you to cultivate the habit of reading the thinking of people who have made the study of leadership their craft. It will make your leadership journey infinitely richer and more meaningful. I wish you every success.